So welcome to this week's Select Dropbox. This week we are joined, I'm delighted to be joined by James Groves, Managing Director of Indigo Swan. So how are you today, James, all right?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, lovely to be here. Excited.
Yes,
got to host a few of these things, so it's nice to be a guest from time to time, which is lovely. So thanks for having me on.
Both from the comfort of our own homes as well.
We are.
Okay, so first of all, for those that unbelievably might not know about you guys, tell us a little bit about Indigo Swan and what you guys do.
Yeah, cool. Do you know what? It's a really interesting question because we get mistaken a lot for a culture or well-being company, which is interesting because we're not a culture or well-being company. We love our culture, we love our well-being, we love to look after the Swans, as everyone in Norfolk and hopefully across the UK know.
I think
what we
everyone
actually are, though, we are an energy consultancy. So what do I mean by energy consultancy? Well, ultimately, we help businesses make better business decisions about their energy. So 25% to 30% of that is ultimately brokering. There's no getting away from that. We are a broker. We go out to the marketplace. We look for the best deals for our customers and for the businesses that we work with. Where our value really comes into its own is through the client services side of things, where we help them with their ongoing issues, their bill validation, the installation of new meters, any issues they may have with the suppliers. So ultimately, they're not having to sit on the hold to one of the suppliers, an hour at a time to just submit a meter read. They've got somebody that they can come to that they trust that will do a good job for them. So, we're very much a company's outsourced energy department, I would say.
Okay, fantastic. And so you took over in 2019 as Managing Director.
Yep.
Obviously, what a tricky year you've had, or maybe not. How have you navigated lockdown for yourself, your teams, and your clients?
So I became Managing Director in May 2019. Do you know what? Actually, that's not true. I became Commercial Director last year. I became Managing Director in May this year.
Oh, okay.
So it was May 2019. Oh my God, edit this.
Where are we? We're in 2020.
Sorry, it was 2019. Sorry, it's end of 2019.
It's been a long year so far.
It has been a long year. I'm getting so confused. But to be fair, I'd probably been Managing Director for about 6 months or so before the end of March came and we all got put in lockdown. So it was a challenge. It was not something I thought I was going to have to go through in my first year of being a Managing Director. But I just really had to go back, I think, to my skill set and back to the strengths that I feel that I have, which, really is the sort of people management side of things. So the first priority for me was making sure that the 19 Swans that we have were all okay. They were all looked after. They were all set up, at home, working remotely. Before lockdown, we couldn't work remotely. We were still using desktops. So, we went out, got some laptops and all that sort of stuff. And the first thing for me was to make sure that they were all good, they were all set up, and they were all safe and well. From there, it was about checking in with them regularly. I do a video every single morning to the team on WhatsApp. So about 100 and something videos in now. About a minute and a half, 2 minutes a day, setting a little challenge for the day, a picture of this or drawing of this or get outside today.
Your brain must just be continuously just like ticking on.
It's getting hard. It's getting harder. To be fair, I did an interview about 2 months ago and I said it was getting harder, and we're 2 months on. But it's great, and the guys are really good at suggesting ideas and stuff like that. But it's just a nice way of keeping the team engaged. And then obviously we got to the part where we sadly we did have to furlough some people. But that was the right thing to do, because the most important thing to me was making sure that we had 20 people back in jobs when this comes to an end. So furloughing and sacrificing some of the team was something that we had to do. But also during that time, it was extremely important to me to make sure that I kept in contact with them regularly. So as much as I wanted to make sure the team that we're working, we're connected with, we're doing well, we were under capacity, obviously, so they were busy. It was important to make sure those guys were motivated and heard from me and stuff. But it was just as important that the guys on furlough heard from me a good, at least once or twice a week. I did a morning video, which obviously they could see. But then obviously I wanted to check in personally with them to make sure they were okay. And what were they doing? How were they using their time? And encouraging them to use their time wisely, which they did. Some people did some DIY projects. Alex did a leadership course. Some people learned a language. There were lots of different things going on, and that was really nice to see that the Swans that were furloughed were still making the most of that time to better themselves. And thankfully, where we are today, everyone is back at least 4 days a week, which is awesome. So, making the most of the flexi furlough for the short term, and then you know, we have done well. The guys that have worked have done an amazing job. You know, I could never be more proud or more thankful, you know, to the sacrifices the guys who got furloughed made.
Yeah.
You know, specifically to the hard work and dedication that went in from the guys that were working. You know, for me being new to a managing director position, it was important that I had the relevant support from a management team, and they have been amazing, all of them for different reasons. And yeah, we navigated it. We got through it. We've performed well. You know, we're on track to have a really good year. You know, not far behind what we expected to do, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
That is only been made possible by the hard work that those guys have put in. And that's allowed us to get to a place where, fingers crossed, you know, we'll have 20 people back full time come November.
Fantastic, and growing, I've seen as well. So you know, still looking to grow,
and growing, which is also we can actually recruit, which is lovely. So
yay!
You know, yay, Emma's happy. So
Always
so it is good and it's really positive. But I've never had a more trying, stressful, challenging 6 months in my life. But I'm naturally a positive person, so you know, I always want to make sure I show that positivity to the team. But at the same time, you know, I will let them know when I'm not having a good day, and I think that's been really important during lockdown. It's you know, you've got to show that vulnerability as a leader, and you know, I used a quote recently on another thing I was doing, which was there was a lady who came up with this quote, which was, "You've got to have a breakdown to have a breakthrough," and I thought that was a really lovely quote. And I've had a couple of breakdowns during lockdown, to be fair, but you've just got to admit it, and you've just, you know, take the next day off. You know, take some time to yourself, have a think about things, but then be honest with your team about that, because they'll all be going through the same thing. You know, I don't want anyone to plow through working from home when they're feeling like that. So, you know, showing the vulnerability from a leadership point of view will just encourage the other guys to be open and honest about their feelings and the struggles that everyone has had during the last 6 months.
And have you found that from your clients as well? I mean, I've certainly found that, you know, like you're one of my clients, and we're all showing each other's vulnerabilities and kind of coming together with that as well. Have you found the same from your clients? Have you almost found that you've kind of, we're all not, we don't want to be in the same boat. We've talked about this before, but we're all going through something that's completely new for all of us, really. So
yeah, 100%. And you know, big shout out to all our clients as well. They've been so understanding. You know, our service levels will have been impacted, as everybody's service levels have been impacted, because you've got half your team sitting on furlough. You know, and that's a lot of the approach a lot of companies are taking. But you know, our clients have been amazingly understanding. You know, that I feel we've worked extremely hard to achieve our service levels we promised. You know, sometimes you might have been a little bit short on that, but that's to be expected in a way. And for me, it's just making sure that the clients that we work with have realistic expectations. We set realistic expectations, and you know, pre-COVID, you might have got it in 2 days. Post-COVID, it might be 3. You know, and making sure that they've got that realistic expectation. And I feel we've done an amazing job, and the team have done an amazing job, and the clients have been amazingly understanding for that. You know, some clients we speak to every month, some clients we speak to every day. You know, some clients we speak to every quarter. So it just depends. But you know, depending on the client, I think it's just aligning our expectations with them. And we did a great job of that in the first month or so of lockdown, so that it's allowed us the time to make sure that we're doing what we need to do without, you know, people unnecessarily chasing and supporting what we're doing, and at the same time making sure we're still supporting them with the service that we offer.
Oh, fantastic. And I know that you've done TED Talks in the past yourself, and Emily, the previous MD, which obviously featured on your website, which we've seen. And you've often talked about how they focus on using your mistakes to inspire innovation, and then turn a positive instead of a negative. You know, we've covered it a little bit already, but can you walk us through how you've managed to do that, Indigo Swan?
Yeah, like I say, you know, when Emily started the company 10 years ago, you know, one of the things we wanted to make sure that the company was built on was a no blame culture, and learning from the mistakes that we made. And we both touch upon that within, as you said, within our 2 TED Talks that we do. You know, for me personally, it's really important that we have no blame culture, because, you know, for me, the best processes that we've put in place, the best clients that we've won, have all come from mistakes that we have made as a business previously.
Okay, yeah.
And we have a process internally that I talk about in my TED Talk, which is our SIGNOT process. So baby swans, signets, making mistakes, not SIGNOTs. Which is only just a hand-up culture. So if you've made a mistake, you know, stick your hand in the air, say you've made a SIGNOT, and let's have a look at it. You know, what was the mistake? Why did it happen? What can we do to make sure it doesn't happen again? And because we embedded that from, you know, day one, 10 years ago, and for anyone that's been recruited since that time, you know, everyone feels extremely comfortable putting a hand up and saying they made a mistake. You know, don't get me wrong, you know, you still need to limit mistakes. Of course you do. I'm not going to sit and say Indigo Swan makes 100 mistakes a week, and that's a great thing, because it's not. you know, and we do make a small number of mistakes, but you know, they will happen. Of course they will. They happen in every business every day. For me, you know, it's very much a case of what do we learn from that? What can we do? And how can the guys that made the mistake help us? Because you get in a lot of companies, like somebody junior in the company will make a mistake and the leadership team will take it away and they'll come up with a solution. Well, that's great, but you ain't going to go and do that job tomorrow.
Yeah.
So you might come up with a wonderful idea, but you're not the person doing it.
Yeah.
So, you know, for us, it's very much about including those guys who've made the mistakes in that process and asking them what could we have done better to make sure that they didn't make that mistake in the first place.
Yeah.
You know, you'll get human error, of course you will. But a lot of the errors will come through a process maybe not being quite right. You know, we won't win a client because we didn't do something quite right. You know, what can we learn from those things to make sure that our processes are as slick as possible? You know, we win more new clients. And how can the guys that do that job day to day help us with that? And we've been really successful in embedding that in the business. You know, especially in the last 6 months. You know, we've never worked from home before. I've never had to manage, you know, 10 to 20 people working from home.
It's literally like a battlefield you're working your way through to
100%. You know, I'm new to being a managing director, and I've had a good experience in leadership, but I'm a new managing director. You know, Amy and Tom, who look after teams, they're new line managers. You know, we went into lockdown, all of us with little experience in the roles that we were doing. You know, so, you know, we all needed to support each other. You know, we've all made mistakes, but again, it's a case of, right, okay, what can we learn from what we did yesterday to make today better, really?
Yeah, and it's the same at Select, actually. So, you know, I can still remember, and I've been there 18 years now, I can remember some of the biggest mistakes I've ever made. And my director used to say to me, unless I let you make that mistake, then you're not going to learn from it. So, you know, I still remember those mistakes and I've still learned from how to move forward from them. And, you know, I now see junior consultants coming in where I'm trying to help and nurture them, but still make the same ones because that's the way they're going to get to be the best.
100%. And I still make mistakes. I say to other guys, I've been doing this for 10 years and I still make mistakes. I still forget things. You know, and but it's just important to encourage the guys to, you know, to speak up and for us to make any changes we need to and to do it. It's like to fail fast, isn't it? Saying it's like, you know, let's just make sure we fail fast and get it sorted and move on.
Fab. Okay, and moving on to kind of being more environmentally friendly, which, you know, hot topic right now, especially in your industry as well. Have you seen more businesses take the grid? And if, I guess, how do you see that developing further from now as well, particularly now as well?
Do you know what? Yeah, we have. It's an interesting one. It always tends to be certain sectors. So, you know, environmentally, you know, you've got manufacturing, they would love to be more sustainable. Charities love to be more sustainable. The problem I think that still comes with it a little bit is that it's still technically a little bit more expensive to be green. You know, historically, it used to be either cost neutral or a little bit cheaper, whereas now it can be a little bit more expensive. So, whilst people would like to help the environment and whilst people like to do better things, sometimes their budgets don't allow for that. So, you know, for me, there's a big educational piece that we as a company have to take responsibility for, to educate our client base on why, you know, maybe being green energy and the net zero target the country has and all this sort of stuff is something that we're really sort of leading the charge on, and we want to make sure people hear. But yeah, I'm saying we're seeing more appetite for it. People definitely want to see more options. Whether or not they take that option, I would say is difficult to put a number on at the moment. I would say, I'm no doubt we're probably selling more green energy than we were a year or 2 years ago. But I would say the uptake is not where it needs to be as a country to get to this net zero level that we're all striving towards. But yeah, for me, it's a case of, as a company and as a consultant, along with other companies in the UK, it's about educating the masses. You know, a lot of people hear the net zero term. A lot of people hear the green term. A lot of people don't know what that means. You know, and a lot of people don't necessarily believe that when they're buying green energy, it is green energy. Because green energy can to a certain extent be mocked up in any way you want. It doesn't necessarily mean that it is. So for me, it's about building relationships with those suppliers in the marketplace that are really offering good, true green energy products, so that when we have clients that are like, look, I don't want brown, don't worry about showing me these. We are presenting to them, you know, true green energy prices, sustainable energy prices that, you know, we can prove, look, the energy you're using it's come from this wind farm over here. 100% that's where it's come from. You know, it's not been put up in another way. So, yeah, for me, it's all about the education piece, because we'd love more people to go that route. And as a country, we really need more people to go that route.
And are you seeing a curve where more and more people are asking purely for those options, or does it still always come up against cost, like you say?
I think like in any business, people, especially now, people need to, well, either save money or minimise their increases. Because we always say, look, if you can't save your money, we will try to minimise your increase. And it's going to hopefully be one of those two things. I think people will always be tempted by the cheaper option unless there's a good reason for it. You know, in manufacturing, there's a lot of positives for going green. There's a lot of positives for being more sustainable. Of course, there is. You know, within charity sector, there is a lot of positives. You know, for being that type. You know, and some people just for having the certificate on the wall to say, you know, we're a green business. You know, that's great for some people. But it's just making people really understand why they're doing it and why it's important to do. We would never push anybody in that direction because, you know, we remain extremely independent in our views. But we would at the same time look to educate people on green if they want to know more about it. And I would say more people are asking about it than they were, 12 months ago. But I still think there's some work to do. To get people, I keep saying it, but more educated because people don't understand it.
Okay. So here's to educating more people then.
Absolutely.
And just to wrap up, just to wrap up now, if you could give one piece of advice to a business about their energy, what do you think that would be?
One piece of advice about energy. I think we all fall into the trap of it at home as well. It's don't ignore it.
Yeah.
If I'm perfectly honest, you know, a lot of people ignore it. You know, people are big users. Again, I go back to manufacturing stuff. They're always going to be looking into it. But, you know, don't ignore it and do analyze it. So if you are a big user, analyze it. You know, can you start your manufacturing a little bit later in the day? Can you do it a little bit later at night? Yeah. If you're a small restaurant, don't just assume that the rate that you've been offered by your current supplier is the best, because trust me now, it's unlikely.
Yeah.
Take the time to go and have a look at it. You don't have to use a consultancy like us. By all means, go and use the suppliers directly. But my biggest advice would be is don't ignore it. Don't ignore it, because for a lot of companies, it's one of the top 3, top 4 biggest expenses as a business. You know, so it's something that shouldn't be ignored. So for me, the biggest advice I'd be is don't ignore it. Even if you feel you're getting a good deal, there's still things that you can look into. As I said, you know, what time of day do you manufacture? You know, analyze the data. Let companies like us analyze your data. Where can you maybe turn your lights off a bit quicker? You know, all that sort of stuff. So it doesn't just come back to the rate you're paying. You know, it's a good place to start to make sure you're not being ripped off. But there is also that whole education piece again, as I like to say, education piece again around, you know, once you've got a good rate, what else can you do? You know, don't just ignore it. You know, pay attention to your energy and pay attention to where you're using it and how you're using it.
And we're also conscious of, like you say, doing that as a homeowner or in our own places, but actually just think a little bit more when you're in your workplace, or, you know, if your workplace is at home now, you're still thinking about it a bit more than you used to.
I mean, you think how much you spend at home, in times that by however many in the workplace, you know, especially for these large sites and things like that. It's really important, but I still think a lot of people try to ignore it a little bit. And for me, it's a spend that shouldn't be ignored. And it's a spend that realistically is probably only going to get more expensive.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Well, hopefully you are there to help them out with that.
Fingers crossed.
Educate them.
Absolutely.
Listen, it's been brilliant. Thank you so much, James, for your time this morning. I look forward to talking to you again very soon. And have a great day.
Thanks,
see you later. Take care. Bye-bye.